I used to believe that I had everything. A beautiful home, a loving husband, 4 bright, healthy kids, a steady rhythm of life that made sense, safe, predictable, respectable. If you had asked me then what more I could possibly want, I would have laughed, because what could be more complete than a man like Leo? He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, but he was solid. Leo Kouros was the kind of man who made everyone feel anchored, like no storm could move him. He was the sort of person people naturally confided in: neighbors, co-workers, even my own sister Alara. When she was drowning in the chaos of her divorce, Leo was the one she called, not me, and I didn't resent that. Not really, because that was just who Leo was: steady, unshakable, trustworthy. We met in college. I was sharp, ambitious, always rushing ahead. Leo was calm, thoughtful, and maddeningly deliberate. He slowed me down in all the best ways. We built a life with purpose, 18 years of marriage, and while we weren't perfect, I thought we were unbreakable. He celebrated my wins, even when he had none of his own. When I got promoted, he made dinner. When I broke down over work stress, he held me. When I needed space, he gave it, always giving, always believing in me, sometimes more than I believed in myself. We had 4 children, twin boys, Sam and Ben, who were just turning 17. Maya, our brilliant, headstrong daughter, 15 and constantly challenging the world. And Ethan, our youngest, 10, sensitive, always clinging to someone's sleeve. We were a team, a real one. And yet, I changed. It started with my body, of all things. When I turned 40, something in me cracked open. I'd been coasting in my career, feeling stale. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself, not out of disgust, but numbness. So I started small: clean eating, morning walks, a Pilates class. I dropped weight. My energy surged. People noticed, including Julian Thorne. He was new at the agency. Charismatic, younger, smart in a different way. Sharp edges and fast jokes. Leo called him a bit much after one company dinner. I laughed it off. I didn't tell Leo that Julian had complimented my dress 3 times that night, or that he made me feel like I was the most magnetic woman in the room. I told myself it was harmless. Just office flirtation. Just messages after work. Just coffee. Just wanting to feel seen. But once you start craving that attention, that validation, it's hard to stop. Leo saw the signs. Of course he did. I was more distracted, short-tempered. I'd pull away when he touched me. I dismissed his gentle suggestions for getaways, his careful efforts to bridge the growing gap. Too much effort, I said. I'm tired. But the truth was uglier than exhaustion. It was apathy, and a hunger for something dangerous. Julian and I spiraled fast. It started emotionally, late-night chats that turned personal, then intimate. He made me feel electric, desired, alive, the kind of alive that makes your skin buzz with anticipation. I wore my wedding ring like armor, but it didn't protect anyone, least of all me. When it became physical, I convinced myself it was a phase, a midlife blip, something I'd outgrow. Except I didn't. I started belittling Leo, subtly at first, a dig at how he dressed, a comment on how out of touch he was with our teenage kids. I didn't even recognize what I was doing until Alara visited one weekend and looked at me with tears in her eyes. She told me Leo had confided in her, that he was drowning in sadness, that he felt like a ghost in his own marriage. He still loved me, but he was broken, and I was the one breaking him. Something in me shattered that day. I cut Julian off, cold turkey, deleted every trace, resigned from my job under the guise of burnout. I thought I could fix it, that if I burned the bridge fast enough, the fire wouldn't spread. But it was already too late. That's where this story truly begins. Not with betrayal, but with realization. The first flicker of guilt, the first sleepless night where I stared at the ceiling wondering, what have I done? And I hadn't even seen the worst of it yet. Because secrets don't stay buried forever, especially not the kind that involve late-night whispers and hotel keys, especially not when you're married to a man who built his entire life on truth. The next part? That's where everything came undone. I thought deleting messages would erase what I'd done. I thought walking away from Julian, cutting ties, resigning from work, and pretending it was all just stress would somehow let me press rewind. Maybe I even believed that if I just acted like the affair had never happened, eventually it would be true. But shame doesn't just dissolve. It festers, and it waits. Julian didn't handle the breakup well. He bombarded me with texts. Please, just talk to me. I deserve an explanation. I didn't respond. Then he emailed. Then he left a voicemail, his voice strained, pleading. Finally, he showed up, at my house. I told the kids I was organizing old boxes in the garage. I met Julian out there because I was terrified he'd make a scene. The last thing I wanted was for Leo or the children to see him. But fate doesn't care about your intentions. Leo came home early that night. He had picked up takeout, flowers, and 2 tickets to a concert we'd once loved, a band from our college years. He wanted to surprise me, rekindle something, give us a reset. Instead, he found me in the garage, face to face with the man I betrayed him with. Julian was holding a small box, things I'd left behind at work, he said. I was barely listening. My mind was spinning. What would Leo think if he saw him? I didn't have to wonder. Leo opened the side door. I turned just as he stepped in, and everything froze. He looked at me, at Julian, at the tight space between us, at the expression on my face. No one said a word, until Leo did. Who is this? I opened my mouth but nothing came out. Julian took a step forward. Leo, right? Leo raised a hand. Don't. The silence cracked open like glass. Leo lunged. He shoved Julian hard, slamming him into the workbench. Julian fought back foolishly. The moment he raised his arm, Leo unleashed a fury he'd never seen. He pummeled Julian, fists, elbows, raw rage. I screamed, begged him to stop, clawed at his arm, but in his rage, Leo shoved me away. I landed on the concrete, twisted my knee, but I couldn't even feel it. I just watched in horror as this man, my husband, unraveled in front of me. Then, he stopped. He stood over Julian, chest heaving, blood on his knuckles, a fire in his eyes that terrified me. He reached for his phone, dialed 911, put it on speaker. His voice was calm, too calm. My name is Leo Kouros. I've assaulted someone. I need an ambulance, and the police. I'll wait here. And then he dropped to his knees. Ben told me later what he heard on the call. He had been upstairs with Sam, finishing homework. He told me he heard his father say, I finally broke. The woman I built my whole life with, she betrayed me. That line would echo through our home, through our children, through the rest of my life. The aftermath was fast and brutal. Julian survived, but not without consequences. A shattered collarbone, a concussion, months of physical therapy. His fiancée left him as soon as the truth came out. An engagement ring returned by courier. Leo was charged with aggravated assault. Despite my attempts to testify, to explain, to say it wasn't what it looked like, to say Julian had come uninvited, nothing changed the facts. Leo had beaten a man nearly to unconsciousness. And me, I had destroyed the foundation of our family. My parents barely looked at me at the hospital. My father muttered, I thought I raised you better. My mother clutched her purse like a lifeline and turned her back. Alara was furious. He saved me when I was falling apart. And you did this to him, her voice shook. You broke the one person none of us thought could ever be broken. Leo's sisters, both older, fiercely protective, refused to even speak to me. At the courthouse, one of them turned her face away when I walked by. The other muttered, you killed him, not physically, but everything else. I tried to explain during my testimony. I painted the affair as a mistake, a moment of weakness, a detour. I said I still loved Leo, that he was a good man, that he didn't deserve this. But my words didn't matter. Ben told me afterward that I had sounded rehearsed, hollow, like I was more concerned with salvaging my own dignity than defending his father. He wasn't wrong. Leo was sentenced to 3 years in prison. 3 years. For 10 minutes of fury. But beneath the legal verdict was another sentence, one not handed down by a judge. My family would never see me the same again. The silence in our house afterward was deafening. Ben didn't speak to me for days. Sam stopped coming downstairs. Maya blasted music so loud I thought the walls would crack. Ethan cried over spilled cereal and then punched a hole in his closet door. The chaos was all around me. But inside, nothing but quiet and shame. The kind that no apology could erase. And I still hadn't realized how far the fall would go. That would come later. After the lawsuits, after the divorce papers, after the day I learned Leo had been stabbed in prison, protecting someone else. Because even in a cage, he was still trying to save others. Even after I'd ruined him, Leo was still Leo. The house was quieter after Leo went to prison. But not in the peaceful, restful kind of way. No, it was the kind of quiet that rots, that makes the air thick, that settles like a film on your skin. The kind of quiet you notice because it's choking. Our children stopped talking. They stopped eating dinner with me. They stopped looking me in the eye. And that silence said everything. Leo filed for divorce less than 2 weeks after sentencing. No phone call, no letter, just papers, served at the front door by a polite man who couldn't meet my gaze. I signed them in a daze. How could I argue? How could I not let him go? I'd told myself for weeks that I'd try to make things right, that I'd rebuild our family, that I'd earn back their trust. But the truth was, they didn't want me anymore. Not really. Julian sued me next. Medical costs, lost wages, emotional distress. He didn't need the money. His family had wealth to spare, but I think he just wanted to ensure I couldn't forget him. The settlement nearly bankrupted me. And that's when the cracks in my professional life split wide open. My resignation had been hasty, but not quiet. Word got out. The story of Leo's arrest was in the local news. I was the woman who ruined her husband's life, whose affair sparked violence, clients ghosted, former colleagues unfollowed. My name became radioactive in a tight-knit industry. So I took what I could: retail shifts, freelance copywriting, editing brochures for realtors who barely remembered my name. I went from managing campaigns with six-figure budgets to ringing up hair dye and dog food at a pharmacy. Every day I walked out of that store with sore feet, clenched teeth, and a deep ache in my stomach. I almost lost the house. It was Leo's childhood home. Inherited from his grandmother, he'd poured years into restoring it. New porch steps, repainted shutters, a garden for Maya's wildflowers. I was behind on the mortgage. Legal fees had drained my savings. The only reason I kept the house was because Leo didn't fight me for it, and even that felt like a punishment. As if he was saying, "You can have the house, I don't want it anymore. I don't want you." The children changed. Ben left for college the moment he turned 18. No goodbye hug, just a text that said, "Going early. Don't wait up." Sam, once so close to Leo, he mimicked the way he folded laundry, turned inwards. He spent his days behind closed doors, headphones on, gaming non-stop. When I knocked, he'd grunt. Sometimes, he didn't bother. Maya got louder, sharper. Every comment was a challenge. Every rule was questioned. She once looked me dead in the eye and said, "You don't get to tell us anything anymore." And Ethan, sweet Ethan, he cried over everything. A broken pencil, a missed bus, a sibling's sarcastic tone. The school counselor called me twice about emotional outbursts and once about him biting another student. I wanted to hug him, hold him, apologize. But he flinched when I got too close. Leo's family made it clear where they stood. His sisters blocked my number. His mother refused to acknowledge me at school events. One time at Maya's science fair, I caught her handing Leo's favorite cookies to Maya and Ethan with a whisper, "You did so good, sweetie. Your dad will be so proud." Then she walked right past me without blinking. Alara tried in her own way to stay involved, for the kids. But I could feel the change. Her hugs were stiff, her tone clipped. She no longer called me for advice. She brought groceries by sometimes, but never stayed for coffee. And my father? He only communicated through Alara. At one point, he mailed a check to help cover Maya's braces with a note that read, "For the kids, not for you." I tried therapy. I didn't go for pity. I went because I was drowning. I couldn't sleep. I woke up every night around 3 a.m. and lay there, heart racing, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I had become this person. I'd break down folding laundry. I once had a panic attack in the freezer aisle at the grocery store because Leo used to buy our favorite frozen Nain from there. My therapist, Dr. Evelyn Vance, was not soft. She wasn't cruel either, but she was honest. She told me I'd built my identity around being desired, around control, around being the most interesting person in the room. And Leo's quiet devotion had become too easy to take for granted. "You didn't just betray him," she said. "You dismantled the very thing that gave your life shape and then expected it to rebuild itself around you." I wanted to hate her for saying it, but I couldn't. Because she was right. For a year and a half, the kids barely spoke to me. We lived in the same house, but it might as well have been separate worlds. I'd cook dinner, leave it on the counter, and later find empty plates left in the sink. I'd ask how their days were and receive nods, shrugs, or nothing at all. One night I left a note on Ben's bed, just a simple, desperate message. "I miss you. I love you. I'm sorry." I found it in the trash the next morning. Then came the day Alara showed up, crying. It was supposed to be a good day. Her baby shower, which I hadn't been invited to. I stayed home. The kids had gone with her. I was scrubbing the kitchen sink just to feel busy when she banged on the door. Her mascara was smudged. Her hands shook. "He got stabbed," she said. "Leo, he got stabbed. In prison." Apparently, he had stepped in to protect a younger inmate who was being attacked. The knife went deep into his forearm. The wound got infected. He was in the medical wing. Alara was shaking with rage. He's still protecting people, she said through clenched teeth. Even in there, and you put him there. That broke me. Not the words. Not even the fact of the stabbing. It was the tone, the heartbreak, the disbelief. As if she still couldn't understand how I had ever done what I did. Neither could I. And yet, somehow I kept moving. Laundry, groceries, work. I went through the motions, because what else was there? But every day felt like walking through a house that no longer remembered who built it. Every picture frame a reminder. Every room filled with ghosts. The kids were growing. They had lives. They would move on. But I knew, deep in my bones, I had lost something I would never get back. Not fully, not truly, not ever. I remember the sound of my dad's voice on the 911 call. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, it just happened. The call echoed through the vents. I finally broke. That was the moment something inside me snapped too. It wasn't just that mom cheated. It was that she crushed him, quietly, over time. And the rest of us, we didn't even see it coming. After the assault, everything changed. People looked at us differently. Teachers, neighbors, even my friends, parents. I started noticing how long people paused before saying my last name. Chorus used to mean something. It meant my dad. Now it meant scandal. But Dad, even behind bars, he never changed. We visited him as often as we could. Sam barely spoke on the drive there. Headphones in. Maya carried herself like a warrior, ready to go to war on Dad's behalf. Ethan always gripped my hand too tight when we went through security, but the second we saw him, he smiled. Always, a small, warm, real smile. He asked how school was. He asked about Ethan's drawings, about Maya's science projects, about the game Sam was playing. He acted like he wasn't wearing orange, like we were just visiting him at work. We clung to that, because Dad never asked us to take sides. But we did. We had to. I don't think Mom ever realized the full scope of what she did. Maybe she thought time would soften the betrayal. But time didn't erase it. It sharpened it. Watching Dad behind plexiglass, smiling with that bruised arm in a sling, then hearing Mom sigh because the store was out of oat milk, there was no comparison. When he got stabbed, we thought we were going to lose him. He was trying to help some scrawny kid who kept getting bullied in the cafeteria. Dad stepped in, always the protector, and for that he got a kitchen shiv to the forearm. We found out through Alara. Mom broke down when she heard. I saw her cry. I even believed for a second that she was finally beginning to understand the destruction she left behind. But understanding doesn't fix anything. Not when you're 3 years too late. Sam changed after that. He used to be quiet, but now he was unreachable. He stopped coming to visits, said it made him too angry. He started volunteering instead, cleaning up parks, working at the community pantry. I think it was his way of honoring Dad. Maya, she became a firestorm. She wrote letters, dozens, to the parole board, to prison administrators, to anyone who would listen. She even organized a petition for Dad's early release, quoting case law and citing stats on good behavior reductions. The girl was relentless. She once told Mom, he defended a stranger in prison while you let your own family rot. I'd never seen Mom look so small. Ethan had it hardest. He was only 10. Too young to understand the weight of betrayal, but not too young to feel it. He started flinching at loud sounds. Developed a stutter. His school counselor told us he was drawing dark things, cages, crying stick figures, broken hearts. But he looked forward to one thing: weekly video calls with Dad. Por'd sit with his tablet, cross-legged on the carpet, whispering about his drawings. Dad would lean in, nodding, always engaged. It was like watching a cracked piece of Ethan glue itself back together, if only for 20 minutes at a time. Mom tried. She made dinner, asked questions, sent birthday texts. But it was like trying to repair shattered glass with Scotch tape. Every room in that house carried his memory. Every creak in the floorboard, every patch of sunlight through the curtains. And we didn't want to erase him. We wanted to hold on to him, even if it meant shutting her out. Alara tried to bridge the gap. She would tell us, your mom's trying. She knows she messed up. We nodded, maybe even agreed in theory. But forgiveness isn't a door you walk through. It's a mountain you crawl up, and she hadn't even found the base yet. She still lived in the house. We still lived with her. But it wasn't a family. It was a truce. One night I told her the truth. She was sitting at the kitchen table, half drunk, staring at an old photo album. I walked in and just stood there, watching. Do you still love him? I asked. She looked up. Her eyes were glassy. More than anything, I nodded slowly. Doesn't matter, that version of you, the one he loved, she died. And whatever's left, he doesn't recognize. She said nothing. And I knew that hurt more than screaming ever could. Dad got early release the following spring. For good behavior, for the stabbing incident, for a dozen small acts of service he never even told us about, teaching GED classes, helping inmates write resumes, even breaking up fights. He walked out of prison the same way he went in, shoulders squared, chin up. We were waiting. He hugged Maya so tight, she sobbed, picked up Ethan and spun him around. Sam gave him a long, fierce embrace. I stood last, and I just whispered, "You're still the strongest man I know." He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. We visited him every weekend after that. He lived in a small renovated apartment above his parents' garage. It wasn't much, but it was peaceful, safe. One night, we helped him string lights for the summer festival, the same festival he used to organize before the arrest. I looked around at my siblings laughing, helping him staple flyers, and I realized something. We were building again. Not what we lost, that was gone. But something new, something scarred, but sacred. And Mom? She still lives in the same house. We started talking to her again, briefly, politely. We sit at the table. We nod. We pass the salt. But love, trust, that died with the version of her that used to kiss Dad's temple after tucking us in. That made cocoa on snow days. That held Leo's hand like it was an extension of her own soul. We miss that woman. We just don't know where she went. And I don't think she does either. There was a shift in the house. Subtle at first. Sam started coming out of his room. Maya didn't roll her eyes every time I asked how her day was. Ethan started leaving his door cracked open again. Ben even stayed for dinner one night, silent but present. For a moment I let myself believe. Maybe they were healing. Maybe I was too. Maybe we were coming back together. And then, one evening over takeout and flickering kitchen light, Maya mentioned it so casually that it knocked the air from my lungs. Dad's helping set up the community summer festival again, like he used to. I froze. She looked up. "Didn't Alara tell you?" I shook my head. No one told me. Leo had been released. Weeks ago. The realization hit like a freight train. All that warmth in the house, the return of laughter, of presence, of eye contact, had nothing to do with me. It was because he was back. Their center of gravity had returned, and I was no longer even orbiting the system. I was a relic. A leftover. I drove to Leo's parents' house the next morning. Not with malice. Not even with hope, really. I just needed to see him. I parked down the street and sat in the car clutching a box in my lap, old photo albums, some birthday cards from the kids, and a pile of letters I'd written but never sent. Letters where I apologized, explained, pleaded, cried. Letters I thought might matter. When I finally approached, I caught a glimpse of him through the window. He was laughing. Sitting at the kitchen table with Sam and Ben, Ethan on his lap, Maya leaned against the counter. Serena stood in the background, smiling. Serena. I didn't know much about her at the time. Just what Alara had told me, that she was a community organizer, a single mother and someone Leo met through a prison support program. But I could tell one thing instantly. He was happy. Truly, deeply at ease. And I was not part of that picture. His father opened the door before I could knock. He didn't raise his voice, didn't curse. Just said, "This isn't your home anymore, Anya. Please don't come back." I started to respond, but then Leo appeared. He saw me. Our eyes met for maybe 2 seconds. And then, he turned away. Didn't speak. Didn't frown. Didn't smile. Just closed the door behind him. I stood there with my box in my hands. I whispered his name once. Then again, louder. But he didn't come back. And neither did anyone else. I left the box on the porch and walked away. It was only later through Alara that I learned Leo never opened it. Never even brought it inside. She found it, still untouched, still taped shut on the back steps 3 days later. A week later, I asked Ben gently if Leo had said anything about me, if he'd read the letters, if there was any response. Ben looked tired. Not cruel, just done. Dad said, he told me, it's like looking at a ghost. The Anya he knew is gone, and whatever's left, he doesn't recognize. The kids continued to visit Leo every weekend. Sometimes they stayed overnight, helped him paint the garage, planted flowers with Serena and her daughter, cooked Sunday breakfasts. They sent me photos, just the kids, never him, as if they knew I couldn't handle seeing his smile through a screen. I pretended to be okay. I told people I was focusing on myself, but inside I felt like I was watching my own funeral every single day. I still live in the same house, but it doesn't feel like home, just a structure made of memories I can't stand to touch. The kids sleep here, they eat here, but they don't live here. They live with him now, emotionally, spiritually, completely. And me? I'm tolerated, managed, endured. I tried one last time. Maya was in the kitchen, scrolling her phone. I sat across from her, unsure of how to even begin. "Do you think your dad could ever forgive me?" I asked. She didn't look up. "Why? So you can feel better?" I didn't answer. Because she was right. This wasn't about love. It was about relief. And I didn't deserve it. Leo didn't block my number. He just never replied. Not to birthdays. Not to holidays. Not to the letter I sent when his grandmother died. One of the few people who'd ever truly welcomed me. I thought that might break him open. But he didn't respond. Alara told me one night, after the kids had gone to bed, "He's not angry anymore. Not really. He's done. He let go of the pain. And with it he let go of you." And that somehow hurt worse than rage. Because it meant there was no more fight, no more bridge to build, just distance, permanent, uncrossable. Sometimes I look at the mirror and don't even recognize myself. Not because of age or regret or the scars left behind, but because I don't know what kind of person I was, how I let go of someone like Leo, how I set fire to the only thing that truly anchored me. And for what? For a man I can't even remember fondly, for a feeling that meant nothing the second it cost me everything. They say time heals, but time doesn't fix what you refuse to face. And by the time I faced it, truly faced it, everyone else had already moved on, especially him. I still remember the first time I saw Serena in public. It was at the farmer's market in late spring, Leo's favorite season. He used to joke that spring made him feel reborn, like the whole world was breathing in color again. I stood near the flower stalls, alone, browsing lavender I wouldn't buy. And then I saw them. Leo, Serena, her daughter, and all four of our kids. Laughing, eating roasted corn. Sam had his arms slung casually over Serena's daughter's shoulder. Maya was holding a basket of apples. Ethan tugged on Leo's sleeve, whispering something that made Serena smile. They looked like a family. Complete, whole, happy. And I, standing a few feet away, felt like a statue in the middle of a park no one visits anymore. I didn't cry. I didn't run. I just stood there, still and invisible, watching the man who once built a life with me build a new one without me. Later, Alara confirmed what I already suspected. Leo and Serena had been dating for over a year and a half. Quietly, gently, no drama, no mess. Serena had met Leo through a nonprofit prison support program. She had a son who'd been in trouble once. Leo helped mentor him. They started slowly. Books exchanged, long talks, a shared belief in second chances. The irony wasn't lost on me. Had found love in a place built on punishment and regret. And I, who had once held every piece of his world, now held nothing at all. I tried not to spiral. I told myself I was happy for him, that he deserved peace. But late at night, when the dishes were done and the lights were off, I'd stare out the window and wonder, would he ever look at me again? Would he ever see me? Ben answered that question for me. He came home from college one weekend. We hadn't spoken much in months, but he came probably out of obligation more than desire. We sat in the living room. The silence was heavy. I asked him plainly, "Do you think your dad ever thinks about me?" He didn't dodge the question. Ben never dodges anymore. "He thinks about the kids," he said. "He thinks about how to make them laugh, how to be there for Maya when she wants to quit school, how to show Ethan what kindness looks like." He paused. "But you? No. Not anymore." I felt the words pierce, but I didn't speak. Ben continued. "When I asked him once why he never talks about you, he just said, 'What's the point? That woman doesn't exist anymore.'" I swallowed hard. "He meant the old me," I said quietly. Ben shrugged. "He meant the real you, or the version of you he believed in." He leaned forward, elbows on knees, voice even. "Look, Mom, I'm not saying this to hurt you. I'm saying it because I think deep down, you still believe this is a story with a redemptive ending, and it's not." He stood up, adjusting his jacket. "You had the love of a good man, you had the admiration of your children, and you let it rot for a thrill. That story doesn't end with forgiveness, it ends exactly like this." He walked to the door, and just before he left, he turned one last time. "Dad forgave himself. We did too, but no one's obligated to forgive you just because you finally want it. Then he left. I sat on the couch for hours after that. The TV flickered in the background, but I couldn't tell you what was on, because I knew he was right. Not just about Leo, about everything. This wasn't about redemption anymore. It wasn't even about regret. It was about reality. And the reality was, the version of me that Leo loved, that my kids trusted, that held Sunday pancakes and bedtime kisses and quiet late-night laughter, that version was gone. And what's left is someone I don't even fully understand. I live a quiet life now. I wake up early. I freelance when I can. I take walks. Sometimes I volunteer at a shelter. The staff doesn't know who I used to be. They just know I show up, clean cages, wash blankets, and leave. The kids still visit the house sometimes, out of obligation. Ethan will talk, occasionally. Sam nods. Maya offers sarcasm. Ben rarely comes. But when they do, I don't pretend. I don't pry. I don't push. I just listen. Because I'm no longer their anchor. I'm the background noise of their lives. A dull hum they've learned to live with. Alara visits more now. Her baby toddles around the living room. I babysit sometimes. She says I'm getting better. But even she knows some cracks don't uncrack. Some wounds heal into scars that never fully fade. And I carry those scars quietly. Not to seek pity, but because I earn them. Sometimes I still dream of Leo. Not young Leo, not even middle-aged Leo. I dream of current Leo, sitting at his new kitchen table, reading, smiling, telling Serena something thoughtful. Our children around him, laughing. I dream of that world, and I'm not in it. Not even as a visitor. And when I wake up, I don't cry. I just breathe. Because that's what ghosts do. I used to believe that time could fix anything. That if I just waited long enough, sat still long enough, the storm would pass, and everything I shattered might somehow glue itself back together. But time is not a healer. It's a mirror. And some reflections are too painful to look at for long. It's been nearly 4 years since Leo walked out of that courtroom in handcuffs. 3 since he walked out of prison, quiet, dignified, free. And every single day since, I have lived in a house that holds his absence like a memory foam mattress. Everything remembers him. The window above the kitchen sink, where he used to whistle while doing dishes. The loose floorboard near the stairs he always meant to fix. The patch of wall in the hallway where Maya's height was penciled in every birthday, Leo's handwriting, not mine. I sometimes press my finger to the fading marks, hoping I can somehow keep them from disappearing. But they're fading, just like I am. I don't tell anyone how often I replay that moment in the garage. How many times I've rewritten the script in my head. What if I hadn't let Julian in? What if I had confessed sooner? What if I had chosen to turn back? To run, to fight for the life I had instead of chasing a mirage? But regret is a cold companion. It doesn't offer advice. It only whispers, "You knew better." And I did. God help me, I did. I still write letters he'll never send. Not just to Leo, to Ben, to Maya, to Sam, to Ethan. Letters that start with, "I'm sorry," and end with, "I love you always." Sometimes I burn them. Sometimes I bury them in drawers. Sometimes I just stare at the page and cry until the ink bleeds. People ask if I've moved on. What they mean is, have I found someone new? The answer is no. Not because I haven't tried, but because no one else holds a candle to the man who used to watch me sleep and brush my hair back from my forehead like it was the most sacred thing in the world. No one else knew how to steady my storms with a single glance. No one else could ever love me like that again. And I wouldn't let them. Because I don't trust myself with love anymore. I once asked Alara, late at night, over tea, if she thought Leo still hated me. She shook her head slowly. "No," she said. "Hate requires energy. He's just past you." And that was the cruelest mercy I'd ever heard. Sometimes I watch videos of our kids when they were small. Ben trying to do a magic trick with a spoon. Sam, dressed as a dinosaur for no reason at all. Maya singing off-key in the bath. Ethan sleeping on Leo's chest, drooling onto his shirt. I press play and I smile. And then I cry. Because those children are gone. And so is the version of me that once deserved them. There's a moment I keep coming back to. A quiet Tuesday night, years ago. Leo was washing dishes. The kids were upstairs fighting over whose turn it was to pick the movie. I was sitting at the table, flipping through a magazine. Leo turned to me and said, "You know, this is the best part." I asked him what he meant. "This," he said, nodding to the sink, to the cluttered table, to the ceiling above us. The in-between, the boring nights. That's what real life is. That's what I want, always. I didn't realize it at the time, but he was right. And I threw it away for something that burned hot and fast, and then turned to ash. I've stopped asking for forgiveness, not because I don't crave it, but because I've learned to live without the things I crave. Instead, I try to give what I never gave enough of: patience, humility, stillness. I volunteer, I cook, I read, I tend to a garden I never had time for when my marriage was whole. I still live in the same house, not because I'm clinging, but because this is my consequence. Every corner a reminder. Every quiet moment a reckoning. My children are doing well. Ben will graduate law school soon. Sam runs a nonprofit. Maya's interning with a social justice coalition. Ethan plays piano now. Leo sends videos. I watch them silently on my phone, alone in the dark. I'm proud of them. Even if they barely speak to me, even if I'm just a footnote in their stories now, there's no bow to tie on this story. No reunion. No final reconciliation. No second chance kiss under moonlight. There's just me, sitting in the aftermath, breathing, learning, grieving, still here. Some days, that feels like punishment. Other days, it feels like grace. Because even in exile, I'm still here. And if nothing else, I owe it to the memory of who I was to become someone better. Even if no one's watching anymore. Wow, that was intense. Anya's story is a stark reminder of how one choice can ripple out, destroying everything in its path. What do you think? Could Anya ever rebuild with her kids? Is Leo's rejection fair or too harsh? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more Reddit stories. Until next time,